Hello there, and welcome to the Totally Leaving the Home Football Podcast. I am your host, Carl Levy. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. We're going to have a lot of debate. And today's news, we know about Conte's now the new Spurs manager. We'll talk more about that. With Xavi, is he close to join Barcelona? We also talk about the rest of the Premier League roundup this week, including first away win for the season for the mighty Leeds United as well. And also a really double unbeaten run extended for Arsenal as well. And then does Brentford need a reality check after that loss at Turf Moor? But joining me, other than there's no Douglas and there's no Reagan, they're both been busy with the other stuff as well. So I'm there. Hopefully, I'm going to give him a break. But we've not had one of our guests for quite a while. He was one of a few semi-regular pundits, and I thought to this after last night, I said, "Do you want to come on and do this recording?" And I'm delighted he said yes. And joining me, it is the Blues, Chelsea, and Norwich City fan, Curtis. Curtis, how are you doing?
Good, thank you, mate. How's it been going with you? It's been a while since I've been on. I know I've
It's
done it like periodically through the years. But yeah, it's been a while, isn't it?
it's been a while and a lot of changes. We're not restricted in the radio world anymore now, so we can pretty much say is the hell we want now. To be quite honest with you, but you know what? As I said, I'm still getting used to this speed back, trying to fit my own schedule stuff. But you know what? I think it's worth it because you're not stressed about and so much stuff anyway.
Oh yeah, I like the intro as well. Like the few times that I've done this before, we've just been on Skype and recorded something. But this is so much cooler. I quite like it.
It's a lot more cool than you anticipated. It really is. For everyone, if you want to get involved with our chat when we upload this, you can send us a comment on YouTube and also on our social media channels as well. You can follow us on Twitter at LH Football Pod, Twitch Leave Horn Foot Pod, Facebook and YouTube the Total Leave Horn Football Podcast. And if you want to listen on the go on the audio version, you can go on Spotify, Google, and other podcast services as well on the go. So, Curtis, let's start with some managerial news, actually. And interesting enough, Antonio Conte is now confirmed as the new Spurs manager after Nuno was sacked after yesterday. It's a quick 24 hours after what's been going on. But first of all, do you think this the relationship with Nuno and the Spurs players, you could see it was just not right at all?
Yeah, you could tell, couldn't you? And to be honest, it didn't really seem like Nuno was the guy that they wanted to, in the summer. They seem to have gone for Conte and then didn't get him for someone else and didn't get him, and then they ended up with Nuno. They started the season well. It was just 1-0 merchants for the first few games, but like, I remember watching against Chelsea. The first half they were really good. The second half, Chelsea just ripped them apart, and it was if it was a Tottenham fan, it's just painful to watch, really. So, and it's all going downhill. You can't really lose the games in the manner that they're doing. They're kind of performing like a mid-table side. So I was still surprised though to see him sacked. I was looking at some reports and seeing that he was under pressure, and I was quite surprised by it all, to be honest. And then when it got sacked, you could they were clearly had someone lined up, and they never really wanted his style of football and playing anyway.
Absolutely. Do you think that the style of play and also how Nuno dealt with himself during the press conference really did suit Spurs at all? He was very reserved in
Mm.
most of his ways, as well as when you have an issue like Harry Kane as well, not even being on form this season.
Yeah, it's difficult. He came into a Spurs side, and it's really like a Spurs side that we're kind of living off the last maybe like 4 or 5 years of being decent. Like, they haven't really been like right up there challenging for titles for the last, or like the Premier League at least for like 3, 4 seasons. And they're definitely on like a downward spiral. And Nuno's come into that, and his star player wants to go. You have to have these sort of realistic expectations to begin with, and to be 4 months in, and yeah, they're mid-table, they're not doing very well. But then again, like what opportunity has he really had to make the changes that he wants to make? Like, I feel last summer was just keep Harry Kane, and then we'll just be as good as we were last year. Like, that's how I feel that that's all he's had to work with.
Absolutely. What will Conte bring into the Spurs side? And he's signed an 18-month deal.
Mm.
What will he bring to Spurs? Will he bring that ruthlessness that he had at Chelsea, at York, and also at Inter as well?
Um, 18-month deal is probably good, to be perfectly honest, because he doesn't really last too long in clubs, does he, Conte? Look, he's a character, and it's a shame because it's just like when Mourinho went to Spurs a couple of seasons ago. He's just going to lose. Like when he first comes back to Stamford Bridge, he's going to get he's not going to get the warm reception that he should really get from the Chelsea fans. The fact he's gone to Tottenham is a bit different, but. Um, they'll get better. Like he's improved every single team that he's gone to, but whether he's the right guy for what, I'm not sure. Like I think when he went, when he was at Juventus, they were always capable of winning the leagues. Juventus, and then Chelsea, although they'd come 10th the season before, they'd won the league the year before that, and he just changed around a few things, and they went on a big run, and they still had the core of the squad that won them the league a couple of seasons previous. And with Inter, he had all the Juventus and whatnot were kind of going on a downward trend, whereas they were going up. Whereas Tottenham is a little bit different. Like Tottenham are not as good as they have been, and you look at I look at the top three now, like Chelsea, Liverpool, and City, and they're getting better. So the gap is a lot, is getting wider and wider. So it's I think it's probably a bigger job for him than he's probably had in the last three clubs.
Absolutely, it will be interesting to see with this one. Let's go to another big club. We knew enough from last week. Ronald Koeman was sacked as Barca coach. This was expected for quite a while as well. We hear rumours that Xavi, he's been linked with the job. There's no confirmation yet. He's still in Qatar with Man CIty at the moment. Would this be a done deal sooner? Because we know that there's an interim manager at the moment at Barcelona. It's just been a huge mess, and we knew Juan Laporta was always going to decide from back in when he won the presidential elections back in April that this was going to happen with Koeman. Koeman's tactics, style play was just so negative.
Yeah, with Koeman though, like, what do you expect him to do? I have to feel sorry for the guy. I know he doesn't play as good football as like Guardiola did in the Barcelona in the last 10 years, but like he's lost the greatest player he's probably ever lived. Like they're £1 billion in debt. All their best players are taking wage cuts. They're selling people left, right, and centre, and now obviously they're not as good. And like I think Koeman's just a scapegoat more than anything. Like they're trying to pin he's not playing the style of play that we want to play. It's too defensive. We're not winning games. But like that is all to distract from the fact that there's a lot of problems in the football club. So I feel sorry for the bloke, but Xavi seems to play good football in the Qatar league, but that's a bit of a step up to Barcelona, though, isn't it? Like, whether it's the right decision, I don't know what you feel like. What do you feel is a right decision?
I think this has been a long-term plan for quite a while. We knew about Xavi, I think he had a contract for life, as I recall it a a few years ago, but he wanted to leave this way. He wanted to try go away and make his own style play, and they have been terrific. Despite, yes, the Qatar league is so low standards. He has won a lot of trophies. I think he's won like 7 trophies in 2 years, from what I recall, from what I've been told. So it's gonna be interesting. He has a contract extension. His contract is ending not till next year. So there's a chance that next year, so the chance that Barcelona look like can get an easy deal. But like I said, I think with Barcelona being in debt, they have to play this right. So yeah, it's an interesting one. It will be interesting.
Oh yeah, well, I guess they've got to look at the fact that Xavi's going to be cheap as managers go at the top level. You can get him on a discount rate, and he'll love it because Barcelona is his life, and he'll come back, and it's like all the sort of former players that have been offered jobs, like when Lampard went to Chelsea and Pirlo went to Juventus, and are you really going to say no? I don't feel that he's in a position to do that, and it's probably from a financial point of view, I guess it's kind of a good decision from Barcelona.
Yeah. Do you see this as a second coming of like the next Pep Guardiola, long term wise, rather than short term wise?
Um, so early to tell, isn't it? But then again, you couldn't really tell with Guardiola. He came through there, so, he's the youth team and then reserve, or Barcelona B manager, and then came through to the. No one had really heard of him on the top stage, and it's the same with Xavi. He could be as much of a game changer, but then again, like he could just be like anyone else. It's so early to tell.
It is going to be early, so we'll see. We'll hopefully get some confirmation within hopefully the next coming days or weeks. We'll see about that. We will definitely see. Right, let's now move on to the main business. Let's go to the English Premier League roundup. We're going to start off with our two own teams, and I did have to mock you on Sunday about this, but
No, it's
Leeds
fine.
winning
Everyone
2.
is so.
Leeds winning 2-1 against Norwich. Rafinha Rodrigo gave the Whites first away win of the season. Norwich on a winner's run, Curtis. I know this is one of your teams, but can you explain why Norwich are in the Premier League? What is their reason being in the Premier League for?
I don't know. It's like they don't care. And I've grown up in Norwich and been around the team, and they've always really been like a championship side. And it's just, I don't know, it's getting worse and worse. Like the couple of seasons ago was the worst when they were in the Premier League. They always gave it a go, and then they just fell apart, and they were always going to get relegated. And this is like a whole new low. Like they genuinely could go and beat, was it Derby's record of like 13 points or something. Like it's got to the point now that if Norwich finish the season on 14 points, I'm happy, because like as long as we're not the worst of all time. But it's genuinely possible right now. They honestly suck. Like everything about Norwich is really bad right now. So yeah, it's just depressing. I kind of look at the team sheet now and just don't even bother watching the games. I see Billy Gilmore's not playing and Todd Cantwell's not in the squad last week, and I thought I just can't be bothered. I just can't be bothered to watch us get smashed.
I want to come on to Billy Gilmore before we go to Leeds. It's just surprised how Danny Farker came out with the comments a few weeks ago saying that we're not here to develop players. I was very surprised when you actually got a high caliber of Billy Gilmore's, caliber, who's come from Chelsea and is supposed to be in the Scotland national team. Are you surprised that he's not been playing for 6 weeks and you went so much effort to get him on loan?
Oh yeah, it's ridiculous. He's the first person that I look for, obviously the Chelsea connection, but he's the first person I look for on the team sheet. And when he's not there, it's just, well, we're gonna lose, because he's so good when he plays for Scotland. Like he's fantastic. And when Frank were at Chelsea, just before Frank left, he was pushing himself for the first team at Chelsea, and you think this guy's going to be the real deal. And now he's like, Norwich are terrible, and he can't even get in the team. You think, well, what's the bloke got to do? He's got so much ability, and just a manager. I think Norwich as a manager needs to go. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting with that one, what he's saying. I'm not surprised. Leeds get their first win in the season. Rafinha has been tremendous again. He's really vital for us, hasn't he? And do you see him going to a big club in the next year or two?
Yeah. As soon as you mentioned him, I did actually think that you'll do a good job to keep hold of him. My old housemate was a Leeds fan, so I hear about Leeds every day. Yeah, you guys are having a tough season, but Rafinha is like a shining light in your sides. Like, I'll be so surprised. Like someone will go in for him. Tottenham with the new manager might go in for him in January. Liverpool was sniffing around. Like he is a top player, and no disrespect to Leeds, but if you're going to be in and around the relegation zone, that's not the place where Rafinha needs to be.
Well, we'll see about that one, and we'll see about that one. But does that fit as well? Getting not just Calvin Phillips back as well, because that was a huge miss that Leeds clearly needed for the last couple of games. We saw against Wolves, you could see there was something coming from Leeds, and that this could be a bit of a slow turnaround that we've been expecting.
I don't know how. I guess you watch Leeds far more than I do. Calvin Phillips is probably your best player, like the most influential. Or him and a few others are right at the top of your squad. But like, it seems weird this year. Like, I don't know how I feel about Bielsa, and that may come as terrible to you, but it just seems that whenever I look at a Leeds team, you've got half a team, and you've got so and so out and so and so out and so and so and so and so, and Bielsa's tactics just seems to, and how he trains the players. I don't know how do you feel that he's overworking them in training sessions? Because I've had this conversation a lot with my former housemate now about, how you've always seemed to have 10 injuries, and it's got to be something somewhere.
I don't know. It's a hard one to say. I would say I wouldn't think he's overworked them. I think would now there's now knowledge from the other coach and they know how to play against us now. I think that's what this situation is. I think as well, Bielsa had made that the squad is small. I think we know he also had a small squad, and it didn't bother us for a while. But up to now, recently, he has questioned. I think the squad is a bit small, and we are light on the midfield because I think that's where we didn't have that cover that for like cover, for Calvin Phillips, and that's where we have been struggling a little bit. I think Matthias Klick is, had to put into the end of the last season. We all know, we reckon we all know about that. I just think at the moment we just do need to be, try to have a little bit of tweaks so teams can't spot us out. And that's what we've been. We've been spotted out from the first game where we lost 5-1 to Manchester United. So it's interesting to see what we do, how we go in the next couple of games. And I think we do need to make sure we just get a little bit better towards January and we could try to get 1 or 2 more players in at least.
Yeah. Do you think Dan James was the right signing for you?
Yes, we needed that. I think Helder Costa was not the right person. I could see that from during the last season. He was not right, Helder Costa. He just struggled. He really struggled, to play what Bale is. He was all right in the Championship. He was quite decent, but when he got to the Premier League, we just knew that it wasn't really good enough. And so it probably was right to get Dan James. And I think it will be paid off. I think it is starting to pay off that because you have him and Harrison do swap around. So let's see how it goes towards the season. But like I said, Dan James was the right move long term wise.
Yeah. Do you like? Would you replace Alioski? I'm not a massive fan of Alioski. I think you.
Well, when we lost him earlier this summer, we had to get Junior Firpo. But Junior Firpo is still taking a lot of time after he come from Barcelona. But Alioski is a bit of a big miss. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was a big miss, because I thought he would extend at least for another 3 more years at least. But it was surprising that the rumors that he was going to go to Galatasaray, but that didn't happen because of the hatred between us and the Turkish club.
Yeah.
So he decided to go to I think he's going to Saudi Arabia. I think it was Saudi Arabia or Dubai, one of the countries he's playing. But yeah, it is hard without him, to be honest with you, because he was a little bit of a difference maker when he played.
Oh yeah, like I feel when Leeds, the problem is kind of if and when you get it together. But when you get it together and you get like a couple more players in your squad and you're not playing, back as right back and you're right back as a winger and, all shuffling around, and you're not playing, having to put your kids on in the 70th minute 'cause you haven't got anyone else. You'll consistently be like mid-table to, you pretty much be challenging with like the Leicesters and the Wolves and probably who else is kind of up there right now. I'd say maybe West Ham at a push. Like you'll be top half of the table. But yeah, it seems right now you just whatever's happening, you're injuring half your team all the time, and it's costing you. And right now, you're in a relegation scrap. So
yeah, for now, but I think we'll get out of it. I think we'll.
You'll be fine. There's even if you're right down there at the end, there's 3 worse teams in the league than Leeds. So.
We'll come to the 3 worst teams later on, actually. Let's go to the other game on Spurs losing 3-0 to Manchester United. Goals from Ronaldo, Cavani, and Rashford. Spurs was just so spineless. They just didn't have no shot on target. And you can see the dreadful footballers playing under Nuno, as we just talked about. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, his job is secure for a little bit longer than we expected.
Yeah. It's actually turned out, and I was telling my girlfriend at the time, I was like, I'm really interested in this game because I reckon Solskjaer will lose his job if they lose. And it turns out, obviously, Nuno lost his job. So it was like the losing manager would have probably lost his job, because if Man United lost that, we'd be talking about Solskjaer being gone, I reckon.
Yeah. You know,
Like I don't know about Man United. They just it's almost like it's frustrating, because they've got all the players to be competing for the title, but then again, like, they're just not using them right. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know if Ronaldo was good for the overall team. Like, I don't know if there was a plan that Solskjaer had that Ronaldo doesn't really, as his play style, fit into that. I've seen a lot of comments about, the sort of forward pressing, and whether Ronaldo kind of, does that as much as the players that Solskjaer wanted, and does that kind of leave holes in the midfield. But yeah, I feel with Ollie, it's just a matter of time now, isn't it? They'll lose a game badly, and they'll get beat badly, and that'll be him gone, in my mind. It's just waiting for that game to happen, whether that's Man City or Chelsea or whoever, or in the Champions League. They get knocked out of the Champions League, but something will happen and it'll go.
Yeah, interesting. It was interesting, but I have to say that the Spurs fans were very angry when I think it was Lucas Moura, came off for Stephen came on for Stephen came off for Stephen Berry. What was that tactic thinking when Spurs were just lagging?
Like, it's I always feel like if you're 2-3-0 down and you're getting a bit battered, just go for it. Like, I know you've got to think of the season as a whole, but like, if you're gonna get battered in a game, like, at least try and give something to the fans. And yeah, when you're taking off Moore is such a creative, fantastic football player, and if you go and take him off and replace him with someone who's not as creative, it's almost like you're playing for damage control, which is maybe Daniel Levy saw that as a mentality he didn't like. That you're 3-0 down, you're not thinking, how do I get back in the game? You're thinking, or how do I prevent this from being 4 or 5? So yeah, I guess it's all mentality.
It is at the moment. We'll see how Conte does in the first 3-4 games, if the Spurs can change a little bit and try to get players like Dele Alli more involved, because we know that's been an encouraged situation for previous Spurs managers.
Who can get Dele Alli motivated though? Because have you seen the Spurs documentary on Amazon?
Yes.
And Mourinho just rips him apart about how he doesn't care about training and whatnot. And then Nuno's coming out and saying that there's certain players that don't. He just questions their, whether they're really invested in Tottenham. And that's Dele Alli. Like, the bloke seems more care about, especially a few years ago, was caring more about being like a fashion brand and designer than he is a football player. And yeah, I don't want to be too harsh on him, but he's just not the player that he used to be. He just seems like, at least he seems like he just doesn't care anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to. You and I probably agree. I can't see him being back in the English squad a lot soon. Not even coming towards the next World Cup. I just can't see him getting closer to the English squad.
Oh yeah, unless he goes and does something, he really gets his career back on track. I don't think he'll ever play for England again. Like, you look at his trajectory in comparison to like the Fodens and Mason Mounts and Jack Grealish. Like, where would you put? Like, why would you even think about Dele Alli? Like, in the summer, like, we were trying to pick up. I was trying to pick out like the squad before the Euros. No point did he even pop into my head
Yeah, same.
about in an England shirt, because he's just half the player he used to be. He was good when he was 20, but yeah, it's
Absolutely.
a shame because he was a fantastic young player.
Yeah, I know. I was when he first came from Ecuador, I rated him, and just since then now, the last 3 years, it's just not been the same. And like I said, I don't want to give grief, but I hope we can see him, the old Dele Alli back. But who knows? Who knows if we do actually? Let's go to the next fixture. Your boys, Chelsea, winning 3-0 against Newcastle, and Reece James double boosts the boost titles. I have to say, I've not spoken to you a while about Chelsea for quite a while, but what has Thomas Tuchel done in that club, despite after what happened with Lampard, you win, and then coming in the last season, you win the Champions League, you're on the UEFA Super Cup, and like I said, despite you players like Lukaku and Werner injured,
Mm.
Chelsea are really really matching on quite well, and they look like they're going to be interested towards the end of the season.
Yeah, a solid side, really. I still feel bad for Lampard. It's been almost a year now since he got sacked, but he really did put the team together. Like, with exception to Lukaku, um, as you said, has been injured, and we're still winning 3-0. I mean, that's Lampard's squad, and it's just Thomas Tuchel had the know-how to just put all the pieces together in the right place. But they look fantastic. Like, everyone in the team looks fantastic. There's competition in each position. There's young players coming through. Reece James was unbelievable. His 2 goals are fantastic. They reminded me of Chilwell's goals that he's been scoring. It's the same sort of, like, on the half volley, like, rifle it in. But I've got nothing but happiness for the Chelsea team right now. To be honest, like, I don't know where you add in the squad. I mean, Thiago Silva is going to go in the summer, but I don't even know, what they can do to improve. They're playing so well, and they've got so much depth in each position now that they're just on a roll. Like, I fully expect them to win at least something this year. If it's not the league, a cup of some sort. Yeah, they look fantastic.
Absolutely. And going to Newcastle, a bit disappointed for them. We hear some more manager in the news that it was surprising. It might be announced by this week that Unai Emery is linked with the job. You surprised this came out today, the news as of today, because we thought Paulo Fonseca, from the former Roma head coach, was going to look like he was headed on for the job. But now Emery is now linked with the job now, and he's having talks with him.
Oh, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It was so surprising when I read the article about Emery, because why would you go to Newcastle? Like, they're fighting relegation, and yes, you've got all the big millions to spend now, but you're still second from bottom. You're still, was it almost, 5 points off safety already, if maybe more? It's like, that's a lot. Like, you've got a long way to go. Like, who would you, if it was you, who would you have as manager?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one, actually. I would personally say outside shout. It's outside shout. It's probably. I know he's been criticised and not had a job since last year. I'd
Yeah,
probably say Eddie Howe at the
I
least.
100% agree. 100%
Yeah,
agree. Yeah.
I know about the how the things ended. The end of Celtic when he was going to try and become manager, and it ended really in disagreements and stuff. But he knows the Premier League, and he knows it. But he'll get the best out of some players. Yes, you have to question
Mm,
sometimes his abilities. He's not a top 6 manager. We all know that now. That's kind of gone a little bit. He has to redeem himself. But I
mm.
think he's the right man for the right club at this time, short term wise.
Yeah. It's what Newcastle need to stay away from is those sort of journeyman managers like your Allardyces, Mark Hugheses of the world that will just, like, will keep you from going down, sort of managers that will just, will keep you in the league. Like, they do need someone who I feel that can build a team. I'm really surprised at Emery, because I thought he's too big of a name for Newcastle right now. But I honestly thought Eddie Howe would be absolutely perfect, because he did wonders in Bournemouth, kept a really tiny team in the league for 4 or 5 seasons. He kept them in the
5
league.
seasons, yeah.
Yeah, and he did a fantastic job there. But it's Bournemouth. He's on a shoestring budget. Like, if he's now got the monetary backing alongside his own skills, well, what can he achieve? And he's proven that he can progress a team. Bournemouth, like, in League One when he took them over, like, he can bring a team up and have that progression. Like, I almost kind of disagree when you said he's not a top 6 manager. I honestly think that, like, given the right opportunity, he will be. I think it maybe like a couple of seasons, but I honestly think he will be.
Well, as I say, we all have our other opinions regarding if a certain manager is a
Hmm.
top six manager or not. So, we agree to disagree. We'll wait and see with that one. We'll wait and see. Really shock draw for Brighton. They actually got a draw a point against Liverpool too. So Liverpool's really 2-0, Curtis, and somehow just did he really their defense were just not in the game on Saturday, and Brighton getting the two goals through MPK and Trossard. Really good point for Graham Potter. That is going to boost his credentials in a future top six job.
Yeah, I saw an article about him. It's like, is he a future England manager? And I really like Graham Potter. He's doing a really good job there. I think Brighton they were known as like, was it the XG kings of the
Yeah,
bottom half of the table? Like you look at their, if the table was by expected goals, they'd be nowhere near the relegation battle that they were in. They're almost kind of hard done by this year or last year, and I feel this year it's almost like they're not having the things go against them in the way that they previously did, and they're shining. Liverpool, um, I it's hard to. I find it hard with Liverpool because sometimes they're fantastic, and like 2 years ago, and then sometimes like when they were 2-0 up, and then it's 2-2 against Brighton. Like if you're going to win a title, you can't be doing that, and that's almost like the Liverpool of last year. So I mean, I'm kind of in two minds about them, to be perfectly honest. But like, fair play to Brighton, like they're having a fantastic season. But yeah, it just seems with Liverpool. I think Liverpool are quite reliant on Salah right now. He's on the form of his life, but yeah, whether he will keep that up for the entire season, I don't know.
yeah, we'll see about that one. Let's go to the Saturday lunchtime kickoff earlier. Leicester losing 2 to Arsenal. Arsenal's a beat was extended. Uh, is Aaron Ramsdale worth the money now? After there was a lot of criticism from the Gunners fans about and he's coming in with a double save. Well, what a save as well on Saturday for the free, for
Mm.
the kick.
Um, I honestly looked at Arsenal's transfers this season as absolute madness. Like when they were buying Ramsdale as a second choice goalkeeper for the money that they were doing after the fans were going nuts about the fact that they're not in Europe, you thought, what are they doing with their money? Like they've always not been able to spend near the top four, but like what are they doing? But the bloke was fantastic. Like that double save that he made was unbelievable. Like you could probably make the argument that he won Arsenal that game. Like he saved at least two goals from what Leicester would typically score. Like he was absolutely fantastic. I Arsenal are another team that they're just up and down. But yeah, at the start of the season, I thought this is literally Banter United, but now they're on an absolute roll. And you think, well, are they actually top four credentials now?
It's an interesting one. I wouldn't say they're top four, but I think they are at least top six in my mind. Just top six at least, especially what's going on with Spurs at the moment. So to quite honest with you, I think they're top six in my credentials a little bit now than I thought it would be. And also as well, Mika Arteta, his job was under threat a few weeks ago, but that's
Mm.
now secure as well. Is this now? Are we now seeing what Arteta's trying to do? And also, do you see Aaron Ramsdale being the England number one goalkeeper?
Um, Arteta, yes. The only thing I worry with Arteta, how bad they were at the start of the season when they had a few players out. Well, if they have Saka and Lacazette and Aubameyang out again, well, what's going to happen? So that would worry me about Arsenal. But Ramsdale, did he go Euros as the
I think he
backup?
did. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he did. Yeah.
So I mean, he's going to have to be in the question, but a few more performances like that. Southgate won't pick him. Southgate will pick Pickford, I feel, because Pickford's his guy. He's never really let anyone down in the England shirt. He was great in the Euros, so why go anywhere else? But he's definitely put himself in contention to be like the alternative to Pickford, I feel.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that one. Bit disappointed for Leicester for Brendan Rodgers, actually. Like I said, it's fair play to Brendan because I know he had a lot of news what was going on with this before the Spurs, with Spurs before the summer,
Mm.
as well as we did link the Newcastle job and he's confirmed stay. Um, do you kind of worry for a bit for Leicester, especially now because they're being okay to start with, but they're just not being like it was last season when they've really had a very good start.
Yeah, I think the last 2 years they've had fantastic starts and then fell out the top four right at the end. And it's been heartbreaking because you think, oh, you're always up there, you're always up there, and then you just fall out right at the last moment. But it just seems like it's inconsistencies with Leicester. They're not quite there right now. Do you feel that Brendan Rodgers is kind of taking them as far as he can take them?
It's a tough one actually because I think he will get another big job in the next 2 3 years at least, and I feel like he'll take as far as he goes because Leicester have got new training ground, they expanded the stadium, they're really bad. They've really got really good players as well, coming from not just from the Bayern but also from the
Hmm.
youth academy. It's a hard one to say at the moment. It really is. It's going to be interesting what he does if he can get them to the Champions League this season. If not, I think he's going to question. I think he'll have one more season in him, but after that, if not, and then if you don't get him again, I think he will go.
Yeah, I think he might be a perfect manager for Newcastle maybe in like 18 months. Like give them a year or so to buy a few players, get themselves out of a relegation scrap and be more competent. Then you get someone like Brendan Rodgers. Get someone like Brendan Rodgers in and he just goes and, takes you to another level beyond that. Um, but yeah, I think for him he needs to take Leicester to the Champions League because right now he's someone. I feel managers fall into brackets in the Premier League after a while of being there. Like you're always gonna like when Allardyce always used to go to the same sort of club and
Yeah,
say, yeah, like he's always going to be in the bottom half. Like Brendan Rodgers is quickly making a name of himself as a manager who will get you top six, and that will be it. But for the sides that are bigger than Leicester, they're going to want someone who's going to be able to take them into the Champions League consistently. And like Brendan Rodgers needs that for his career, I feel.
absolutely did. Absolutely did. Let's go to the other teams on the big huge run. West Ham with a 4-1 against Aston Villa. Double two goals from Jared Barrett on Sunday. We have to talk about Jared Barrett. Are you surprised that he's not in the England squad at this current
Mm.
time? Because he's been
Yes.
tremendous since he joined from Hull the season in 2020.
Mm. No, he's been fantastic, great young player. I've got nothing against the kids. It's a shame that I think if this was 5 years ago, everyone would be talking about him in the English squad. Is that now he's got, yeah, he's playing fantastic, but like, would you have him in an England starting lineup over Mason Mount or Phil Foden or Jack Grealish or I know Sancho isn't really playing as well, but you've got all these massive names there now, young up and coming players that no one really speaks of Jared Bowen, and I think he's there. I think he's probably in the same category as maybe like James Maddison was last year, like on the cusp, and he just needs that. He just needs that consistency throughout the season, and then he's there. But he probably needs a season to be consistent before Southgate will, put him in consistently put him in a squad.
Absolutely. And it's like also got sent off for stopping a goal scoring chance. D Smith said that he did not stop that opportunity. The referee saw it, the VAC did. Is there a lot of pressure on D Smith this season, especially now not having Jack Grealish there? They spent a lot of money, and your former player Emma Berenda is not being the player that at the start to see what he was at Norwich the last few years. He's not
Yeah.
been. He's been having a sluggish start to his career at Aston Villa.
Yeah, Buendia was the main man at Norwich though last year, and he goes to Aston Villa, and it's going to be a little bit different. Maybe he wants to play a different play style, and it maybe doesn't work for him. And it will always take a little while. Like you see so many fantastic players that don't click for the first 3 6 months, and then all of a sudden they get going. But some players don't in the end. But sometimes the manager doesn't suit them, and then they head off somewhere else. But with Buendia, I think he'll come good in the end. Like he'll have a little purple patch, and everything will all be forgotten. But Dean Smith, I think I don't think he should be under pressure. Like the bloke's an Aston Villa fan, and he's a. I actually went. The last football game I went to was a Walsall game by chance a few weeks ago. My mate who's a Walsall fan was talking about Dean Smith being who's a Walsall manager, and they left to be Villa manager because he was a lifelong Villa fan, and he has that sort of connection to the club, and it'll be harder for Villa to sack him than than other managers. I also think kind of it's going to take a little bit of time if you spend a lot of money bringing a few players plus losing Grealish. It's going to take a while for them all to gel as a team. So give them time. I'd fully expect Dean Smith to be there by the end of the season.
Do you see West Ham really trying to break into that top 6 again like they did last season, or can you think they can go a little bit closer, probably to Champions League if they could be consistent?
Yeah, well, they're playing for 4th place in my mind. I think, however good they're playing right now, they're not going to be as consistent as the top 3. Like the top 3 are going to be gone. It's just whether one of the other big 6 can get it together enough to be better than West Ham, and right now they can't. But they're definitely in the mix. Like if they finish anything lower than 7th, I'd be really surprised. I think they've got everything they need to be right up there. But if United sack Solskjaer, they get in a new manager and go on a big unbeaten run, then West Ham aren't going to be that consistent. Same with Arsenal. If they really get it together, and Tottenham, if Conte turns them around, like I don't see West Ham being good enough for the remaining 28, 29 games that are left. To really be on that same level.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see who gets that 4th place in towards around May. And let's go to the other side of the tier. Burnley winning 3-1 against Brentford. Maxwell Cornet, bought from Leon for around about £15 million. He's been proven to be a difference maker for Burnley. And you know what? And I think that's their first black player since they had Andre BK back in 2009, 2010. So it's been a huge difference that someone like Maxwell Cornet, with his talent coming from a big club like Leon, to go to to one of the smallest towns in England, he's made a huge difference in his Burnley career.
Yeah, well, the Premier League's such a massive attraction now. It's weird looking at it. It's almost like, I know there's a lot of talk about the Super League. Like it's almost like we're the Super League and the Premier League now, because like the French leagues, the Spanish, Italian, it's all not what it was before. So like it's weird seeing these like players who are right at the top of like the French league or whatever, and then come into like the Burnleys of the world, which is good for it. We're fantastic for English football. But yeah, it's weird, and he's made a difference. To be perfectly honest, I haven't watched too much Burnley this season. I think of all the teams that I look at the fixtures and think, oh yeah, I want to watch that game. Burnley's, and they don't play fantastic football, but there's a good win for them against Brentford. I felt Brentford have had that sort of, we've got promoted, we're on a high. That's results like this is like the end of that, and now we'll see the real Brentford as well. I feel.
I was going to come to that. Do they need a reality check, Brentford, after that defeat on Saturday?
Yeah. Well, they were fantastic the start of the season. They've got some great results, but they're still in the bottom half. I think the promoted teams, they probably needed about 5 points more at this stage, and you think that they've done enough in their little, because they're the size of squad that they are and the size of team that they are, first year in the Premier League, they're always going to have a period where they can't win for like 8-9 games, and they're on a real downward spiral. So it's good that they've had a good start, but like this I think will prove to be the game in which it all kind of leveled out for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And Monday night's game, Wolves beating Everton 2-1. Well, Everton have been on poor form, Curtis, and without having Calvert-Lewin in the squad, he's been injured. They're missing a few players, Everton, haven't they? And does Rafa needs to go back to the drawing board as well after the abysmal loss to Watford 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, yeah, it's a funny one, Everton, because like I feel they've got some fantastic football players, but they've got half a team of fantastic football players. They need. I mean, James Rodriguez is gone now, but like I feel they just need a couple of good signings. I think Rafa's a good manager for him. I don't think he'll necessarily take them beyond their sort of fifth to eighth range, what they're used to. Um, yeah, they just seem. I can't really put a finger on it. I'd be really bored if I was an Everton fan, just in general. Just you're going to be top half. You know you're going to have a good run. You might get a couple of decent results against the top teams, but then you're going to get really annoyed about losing to Watford 5-2. And but at the end of the season, you're still going to be in and around the European places, and that's it. And you're going to get that every single year, and pretty much have got that pretty consistently for the last 10 years. So, yeah, where would you feel Everton could strengthen?
I think Everton could really struggle, and this is a hard one because when you don't have players like Calvert-Lewin or Richarlison, you do worry about the up front. Yes, they got Salmon Rondon, yes, who was decent in the Premier League in the past for Newcastle and West Brom, but I think I do worry about their midfield a little bit more because I know they were trying to get rid of James Rodriguez, who was not worth wasn't really playing, just couldn't suit under Rafa style, didn't want to come back to defend. But they need to look at that width, and try to get one more player, maybe one or two more players, just to help Everton just to get through the course of the season because we know with Demarai Gray for £1.7 million, which was a very good deal, Aldridge Townsend on the free, but they need a bit more than that up front, and that's what I do worry about at the moment.
Do you feel Richarlison is consistent enough up top?
No, I don't think in some cases the way he's not consistent in Calvert-Lewin. I think he can have his moments, but he's not being consistent enough, and that's what I thought. If Ancelotti did stay, I think he would have been more consistent if Carlo Ancelotti did leave for Real Madrid. And that's why I'm just noticing a little bit Richarlison is not being consistent enough. You see players like Anthony Gordon, who's been tremendously for Everton, and the fans love him as well, which was very surprised when he came off the other week against Watford. And I think he's gonna be one of those key players this season, Anthony Gordon, if Rafa just plays regularly.
Yeah, yeah. It's frustrating watching Richarlison because it's like one day he is the Brazilian magician, and then the next day you think, is he playing? And it must be so frustrating because you don't know what Richarlison's going to turn up, and if he's fantastic, he can win you the game. If he's terrible, when you think, well, especially with Calvert-Lewin out, where are the goals coming from? Because
Yeah. It's absolutely worrying with that one. But what a good start for Bruno Lage at Wolves. Raul Jimenez getting his first home goal after that horrific injury. Also, Killerman scored from there. Can you see Wolves be back in that top half this season? Because now a
yeah,
little bit more better now than under Nuno the previous season.
yeah, I was a little bit worried about him when Nuno went because he kind of tried to build a Portugal team to some to some
Yeah.
extent. He definitely had a type of player that he wanted, and they had a style of play, and he brought them up from the Championship, and by all means did a very, very good job. And I was a bit worried when they were leaving, and especially at the start of the season, they had a bit of a poor start of the season. I was a bit worried about them, but they seem to have got their season back on track now, and they're playing good football, and the fans like it. The general public are liking watching them playing. I didn't actually watch the Everton game, but I was went on the BBC Sport app, and it was saying like fantastic Wolves are dominating Everton, and everyone's speaking about them in high regard now. So, yeah, to answer your question, I'd be very surprised if they're in the bottom half.
I would be surprised as well too, and I think they have a very good chance, to try and get in that top 10 this season. Really do. Before penalty game, and Watford losing 1-0 to Southampton. what a goal for Che Adams as well. And Ralph Hasenhuttl is just getting the Saints bit back on track. You're seeing a little bit more consistency now after the wins they had against Leeds, a few weeks ago.
Mm.
Can you, like I said, Southampton have always been nowhere near the bottom half, And do you think it'd be good for them to just have a mid-table position again, coming towards the end of May?
Yeah, no, I think so. They need it really, don't they? The problem with Southampton is that they seem to have these really bad spells, and they'll lose 9-0 against United against Leicester as well. They lost 9-0, and they're just in absolute disarray. And you think, God, these are awful. And then they just pull it back and go on a fantastic run. They're very sort of up and down, but yeah, they need to have a good run to the point that they're kind of mid-table. Because didn't last year? Didn't they start really like ridiculously well last year?
Yeah, they did, and I think they were at top of the table.
Hmm.
Towards top of the table towards that September, October time, as I recalled it, and then they just capitulated after November. So
Yeah, but that's always going to happen. I feel like I don't think with the squad that they've got this year, they've lost Redmond as well. Like, and I really rate Redmond, and I think with the squad that they've got, I don't see him not having a patch again this season where they're terrible. So they need a good run. That they need to win a few games in a row, because if they don't, you'll see them in a relegation scrap, like right in a relegation scrap. I feel.
yeah. And for Watford, after that huge win against Everton, they went far back in. They didn't take the chances on Saturday.
So sorry, you broke up a little bit there, but yeah. Do you think Ranieri is the right guy for Watford? Honestly, do
It's
you think he's the right guy?
it's a hard one to say at the moment. I will say in the next 2 or 3 more games, I will come back to that at some point later on. I will come back to that. It's a hard one to say at the moment.
Yeah, it's difficult. Watford were one of the teams that I was kind of would tip to go down with Norwich. I thought, do they really have enough for the Premier League? I think a lot of teams right now are yo-yo teams, like Norwich, a prime example. I think Watford I think they'll go down. I think West Brom, prime examples. Like they're just up and down, up and down. I think I do worry about them because they're. Yeah, I don't think they got it together yet, and I don't think Ranieri is the guy who's going to bring it together for him.
Yeah, I know. Well, like I said, we'll judge him after the next 2 or 3 more games at the least, anyway. And the final game we're going to talk, Curtis. Man City losing 2-0 to Crystal Palace.
Mm.
Really surprising result, shock result of the weekend. Patrick Vieira coming back to his old club, and we see now the real Crystal Palace now under Patrick Vieira after the first few games.
Yeah, they have a style of play. It's good. I always thought Hodgson was just boring. You know what you was going to get with Roy Hodgson, but yeah, playing really well. I really like Conor Gallagher. I've followed his career, being a Chelsea youngster. He's doing bits for him. Fantastic. Yeah, I think they're always going to be sort of bottom half of the table, but he's doing a good job. Like I really rate them. I was watching the highlights for this one. I was thinking like Crystal Palace are decent. I'm glad Chelsea got them out the way early when they were kind of developing their
Yeah.
their play style rather than playing them now. Because if you can go beat, I know City have those bad games in them, but if you can go beat City 2-0 at the Etihad, you can go do that to anyone.
Absolutely. And yes, Zaha did score one goal. I didn't think he said 2 goals. I remember Conor Gallagher scored that tremendous shot. Going for Man City, it's just a bit of a worry now not playing a striker up front as well. I recognise striker up front.
Yeah, no, I've been saying this ever since the transfer window closed, and I had this discussion at work probably like every week, and it's all fine and dandy when Grealish is playing well and Foden's playing well, and everything's clicking, and they go and smash someone 5-0 because they're always going to do that from time to time. City, but these are the games against the Crystal Palaces of the world, where you're not playing well. You need a goal scorer who can just stick the ball in the net, and Harry Kane was the guy to do it. So this is not the first time Man City will get done like this season. I don't feel, and it's 100% they needed Harry Kane. Like I'd almost go to the point I'd write them off for the title, and if they don't go and get a striker in January.
Yeah, I would just agree because it is a huge worry, and yeah, I don't know. We'll see how Man City does bounce back against Manchester United this weekend. We'll see if they can bounce back. We're hopeful. Well, not hopeful. I'm a Leeds fan. I do not have City just bouncing back.
Well, you should want Man United to lose. Every Leeds fan
Well,
should want Man
yeah,
United
true. I know. I fucking know. Okay, I fucking know. Right. I
to lose.
just it depends with me on my mood anyway. So yeah. Right, let's go to the league table. So Chelsea is still top of the table, 3 points ahead of Liverpool. Man City are 2 points behind it. Man United level, West Ham level points. Manchester United are level points with Arsenal above them in fifth. Wolves are now in seventh place after one night's win. Brighton and top Spurs and Everton make up the top 10. On the bottom side, Leicester are 11th. Brentford is still in 12th. Crystal Palace in 13th. Southampton after Seville take up 14th and 15th place. Leeds are now 17th, just as on level points with Watford as well as Villa. And the bottom three are Burnley, Newcastle, and Norwich. Yeah, still open to play for. But Curtis, thank you very much for taking your time out. I really appreciate it at this short notice.
No, that's absolutely fine. Anytime you want me to help out, then I'm more than happy to.
Thank you very much. And if you do want to follow on the social channels, please follow us on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube. And also, if you want to listen to that podcast on the go, please go on to Spotify, Apple, Google, and other podcast services. But that is the end of the show. I'd like to thank everyone if you were listening, if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. And if you don't like it, keep that one to yourself. But this is the Total Levy and Horne Football Podcast. I'm your host, Carl Levy. And I like to say, I'll see you guys real soon. Take it for now. Bye-bye.